I see Jewishness as the common denominator. And you're right. It's not all Jewish people feel the same way. No one would say that, but that does seem to be the common denominator. And I just feel like it needs to be called out explicitly. And I like what you said. If the other day, if you're serving in another country's military or have dual citizenship, you really can't be a part of this project.
Well, that's an easy one. But I am much more comfortable as a Christian and an American keeping it on that level because, it's easy to just set universal rules that apply to everyone, not just the Jews or the Christians or the anybody, just like Americans can only serve in the U.S. military or they lose their passport. I mean, I don't know. That's not hard. And I don't know. Why not just say that?
Say what?
That. Why not make every statement about how Americans ought to behave applicable to all Americans? Like it's the defense of universal values that will hold the country together and the emphasis on parochial group values that will break it apart inevitably.
Because this is a particular issue and it's acute. Like I said, I think they are unique in that way. I think that's a unique issue, especially in the Republican Party, especially in the conservative scene. So
how would you like this all to be resolved?
What I would like is for the U.S. government to not be influenced by these kinds of foreign allegiances, not with money that comes from, American citizens like Sheldon Adelson, not from foreign lobbyists. So, I mean, in terms of tangible things, I don't think we disagree on any of it. Like registering AIPAC and FARA, banning dual citizenship. Like I'm basically in agreement.
I think 80% of the public agrees with those things. So that's kind of what gets me a little bit annoyed. It's like these are like America First, the concept. It's the most popular, self-evidently true idea you could have. Like, don't let foreign powers, especially tiny ones far away, control your country. Like, of course not. Everyone agrees with that on both sides.
Yeah.
So the trick is not to let that idea get subverted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think we agree on that.
But it's subverted when they're like, that's hate. No, that's hate. It's not hate.
Yeah. Well, and, here's what I will say. I think that there is increasingly a contingent, because what you're talking about exists. When you say that there are people that legitimately detract from this, there is legitimate racial hatred out there.
Big time.
And it's growing. And
I know.
People on our side are afraid to talk about it because they know, like you said, they're going to get called a cuck or a squish or whatever. And I agree with you. The people that are detracting from that need to be called out. And I think there should be no harbor for cruelty, hatred, prejudice, those kinds of things.
And some of them, I'm sorry to be a conspiracy nut. I really try not to be a conspiracy nut because it's embarrassing, But after January 6th and just finding out the number of FBI personnel in the crowd, it's like, and I've just seen this. David Duke is a great example. Some of these are the Charlottesville rally.
Yeah.
Had a bunch of feds there being like, we're white supremacists. We hate the blacks. Using the N-word, whatever. It's like, that's not real. Like there is some of that going on. Don't you think?
I think that there's a lot of sincere people.
Well, for sure. Oh, I completely agree.
And they're just numbskulls. And some of them are legitimately, they see the opening that there's legitimate critique of this. And they see an opening to air out their grievances. They get a license they think it's okay now. And I do think it's important to differentiate and say that fundamentally, I guess the word that I would use, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is reassurance. Because I think there's a legitimate, need to reassure people. And this is kind of what I've been doing on these podcasts, that we don't want to harm anybody. We don't want to kill anybody. We don't want to harm anybody. Right. We just want to put America first. And I guess, to the extent that I've been taken out of context over the years or things like that, I'm trying to set the record straight and say, and I appreciate you've given me this opportunity. These are my real views. I'm not one of those haters, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I think people should be allowed to describe what they think. I mean, that's like a basic human autonomy question.
Yeah.
Like if I want to know what you think, I should just ask you and let you talk. Right?
Yeah.
So who's going to be president? Who should be president next?
Who should be president? Well, yay, of course. Kanye.
You had dinner with Trump.
I did.
And Kanye.
Yes.
What did you think of that?
It was surreal because those are my two heroes. Those are my two like number one heroes of all time. I've always been a Kanye West fan.
You like the music first?
Yes. The music, the fashion, everything.
Really?
Yes.
Do you wear those weird one-piece shoes?
I do.
You actually do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like in public?
Yes. You don't think that's cool?
No, I do. I don't know what I think.
I'll get you some.
I've worn the same clothes since high school. Don't ask me about clothes. I'm not good at that at all. That's hilarious. So you've always been a fan.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
huge fan.
You described your love for Trump, like sincere
yes,
childhood love for Trump. So what was it like to find yourself at dinner with them?
It was funny because it was literally Thanksgiving dinner. It was 3 days before Thanksgiving. So not only was it dinner, but I'm having Thanksgiving dinner with Ye and Trump at the same table. And these are like my heroes. And the way that it went was sort of interesting. Ye is sort of shy. He deeply admires Trump. He loves Trump. And I like that about him because Ye really admires anybody that's an industrialist. He loves builders, visionaries, architects. He's very into that. So he has a deep regard for Trump. And so at the beginning, it was a little awkward because he wouldn't talk. And he was sort of shy.
Ye.
Yes. Which is surprising, right? Because he's so outspoken, but Trump was trying to get him to talk. And it was kind of like a boomer moment because Trump was trying to get him to talk about like opportunity zones. He was giving him like the black voter pitch, the black Republican.
Really?
Pitch. Yeah. And I was like, dude, like he's not that kind of Republican to say the least,
Fair.
At this point, I think people know
So what
that.
were you saying?
Well, so eventually, Trump didn't have a lot of luck with him, so he's kind of fielding the table, and he's talking to me. And
Trump does like other people to talk.
yes, well, he likes to talk too.
He does, for sure.
Yeah.
But he asks questions.
Yeah, he does.
More than you would think.
Well, he's a good guy, fundamentally.
Yeah.
He's a very warm guy. So he was asking everybody, what's up and who are you? And we got to talking, and I guess it was going too well because I was being very complimentary of Trump. And Ye was kind of kicking me and saying like, a couple days prior, we were talking about if Trump and Ye wind up on the debate stage, what is that going to look like? And I was coaching Ye like, these are his weak areas. Like, this is where we got to attack Trump. And so Ye was like, tell him what you were saying the other day. Tell him what you were saying last night. And I was like, dude, that's our playbook. Like, we don't want to blow up our... and Trump was like, go ahead, don't be bashful. Tell me, what is it? And I said, you know what? I said, I think you're one of the greatest living Americans. I said, I'm a young guy. I said, I really have nothing to say other than thank you. I have nothing but gratitude for what you've done for the country. I said, it's really not my place, to give you advice or correct you. And he said, no, don't be bashful. Tell me. And the story that I brought up was, this was really what sent me. In the first Fox News debate in 2015, in the Republican primary,
yes,
Bret Baier, the first question said, raise your hand if you will not pledge to support the eventual nominee.
Yes.
And Trump raised his hand because that's what he was saying. He said, if I don't win, I'll run independent and I'll make Republicans lose. And so I brought that up and I told that story and I said, I feel like what was inspiring in 2016 is that you were willing to let the Republican establishment lose. Like you were serious about blowing them up, such that you are not going to say, like Pat Buchanan, who I respect, but Sam Francis acknowledged that was one of his great mistakes, was ultimately endorsing Bush. I said, it showed you were serious, you were playing to win, because you said, I will let this Republican Party crash and burn. I want to run as the Republican, but if I can't, I'll run independent. I said, and that's how I knew you were serious. And that's how I knew you were the guy. I said, and I feel like lately, this was right after Ronna McDaniel became the head of the RNC again. I was like, I feel like lately you're just behind all these people. I said, we're not here for Kevin McCarthy. We're not here for Ronna McDaniel or Mitch McConnell. I said, we are here for you. Like, we will die for you. We are loyal to you. I said, and when you did that, that showed you could win, and we rallied. I said, so I want to see more like that. I want to see you hit DeSantis, let's say, who is running against him. And he was like, oh, okay. He goes, oh, so you like that? It was right after he called them DeSanctimonious.
Yeah.
I said, that was awesome. You should have kept hitting him. He's like, oh, you like that? He goes, this guy's hardcore. I like this guy, he was saying about me. And so I was trying to just get his mojo back, and, gas him up a little bit. And so that's how it went between me and him.
And what was Ye saying at this point?
Well, he was beaming with pride. Because Trump turns to him and says, who is this guy? This guy's great. And Ye was like, right? And I was like, this is amazing.
Did you call your parents from the parking lot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You'll never believe. Yeah.
I try never to think like, how will this be perceived? It's better just to like be as honest as you can be all the time. And, and honest people will respond, agree or disagree, but they'll feel your sincerity and your honesty. But there are always people who are going to like distort it. And I recounted basically the Christian gospel at Charlie Kirk's memorial service, and everyone's like, you're an anti-Semite. I literally didn't have one thought about Jewish people. It had nothing to do with that. It was whatever. So, but I was thinking about this conversation, which I'm sure can't imagine in the ways that it'll be distorted, but I do hope that people who want to learn what's happening and who you are will watch the whole thing. It's probably naive hope that it won't be reduced to whatever you're saying something naughty and me laughing and see they're both Nazis. I mean, that's going to happen, of course. But I'm willing to take that risk because I just think it's important to know you're clearly ascendant. You're enormously talented. You're more talented than I am, for sure, as a talker. So, and there've been a lot of attempts to silence you and it hasn't worked. So my calculation, I'll just be as blunt as I can be. It's like, do I want to have Fuentes on? Everyone's going to be like, but you're a Nazi just like Fuentes. Okay. But then I'm like, I don't think Fuentes is going away. Ben Shapiro tried to like strangle him in the crib in college, and now he's bigger than ever. So it probably would just be worth hearing what Nick Fuentes thinks. I just want to be transparent about my motives here.
Yeah.
So those are my motives. Let me ask you